On June 4th, 2004, the quiet town of Granby, Colorado, witnessed something so bizarre, so unbelievable, that it would go down as one of the most shocking acts of revenge in American history. A man named Marvin Heemeyer, once known as a skilled welder, muffler shop owner, and proud U.S. Air Force veteran, climbed into a massive bulldozer he had secretly turned into a steel-plated fortress. What followed would leave buildings destroyed, a town shaken, and the world asking, how could one man cause so much chaos? But to understand that day, we have to go back, because this wasn't madness that happened overnight. It was years of anger, resentment, and a sense of betrayal boiling inside one man. Before we dive deeper, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We bring you the most unbelievable true stories, the kind that make you question reality itself. Marvin Heemeyer wasn't your typical villain. Born in 1951 in South Dakota, he served honorably in the U.S. Air Force, stationed at Lowry Air Force Base in Colorado during the 1970s. After his service, he fell in love with Colorado and decided to stay. By all accounts, Marvin was hardworking, independent, and proud of his welding skills. In 1992, he purchased a piece of land just outside Granby for his muffler repair business, Mountain View Muffler. For over a decade, customers knew him as a man who did good work for fair prices. But beneath his calm exterior, Marvin felt increasingly at odds with the town's politics, and soon his once simple life would spiral into something unimaginable. It started with land disputes. Marvin wanted to sell his property to a cement company, but when negotiations fell apart, he accused local officials of corruption and favoritism. What might seem like a small-town disagreement soon grew into an all-out war, at least in Marvin's mind. He was fined for not being connected to the sewer system, blocked from getting permits, and constantly clashed with town leaders. To Marvin, it wasn't bureaucracy, it was personal. He began recording tapes, over 2 hours worth, where he ranted about betrayal, injustice, and his growing hatred for Granby's officials. In 2002, he quietly purchased a used Komatsu D355A bulldozer. At first, neighbors thought he just wanted it for land work. But inside his garage, behind closed doors, Marvin was hatching a plan so extreme, it would later be called the Killdozer. For over a year, he worked in secret, welding thick steel plates together, filling them with concrete, creating armor up to 1 foot thick. He installed cameras with bulletproof glass, air conditioning, and even gun ports. This wasn't just a bulldozer anymore. It was a war machine. If this story has you hooked already, drop a comment and let us know. Could you ever imagine a neighbor building something like this right under your nose? And don't forget to hit that like button if you want YouTube to push this story to more people like you. By early 2004, Marvin was done waiting for justice. In his mind, the town was corrupt, the officials were liars, and he was the only man brave enough to stand up to them. On his secret tapes, he chillingly declared, "God blessed me in advance for the task that I'm about to undertake." To Marvin, this wasn't just revenge. This was divine justice. And on June 4th, 2004, he rolled his monstrous creation out of the garage. The town of Granby had no idea what was coming. But when Marvin shifted the Komatsu's gears forward and crushed through the walls, the town's quiet streets were about to turn into a war zone. The streets of Granby, Colorado were never meant to see a machine of war. But on June 4th, 2004, Marvin Heemeyer's massive steel-clad bulldozer roared out of his garage, and with every turn of its tracks, the town's future changed forever. This wasn't construction. This wasn't demolition. This was revenge. The first target was a cement plant Marvin had long despised. Witnesses watched in disbelief as the bulldozer plowed through the building's walls like cardboard. Dust filled the air, windows shattered, and the ground shook. From there, Marvin rolled into the heart of Granby, and no one could stop him. The machine crushed cars, destroyed the town hall, and flattened businesses he believed had wronged him. The muffler shop he once worked so hard to build, he destroyed that too. A final symbol that he was burning his entire past. People ran screaming, but incredibly, no civilians were killed. Despite leveling 13 buildings and causing over $7 million in damages, Marvin never once aimed his destruction at ordinary residents. His fury was directed only at institutions and people he believed had betrayed him. If you've made it this far, let me ask you, what would drive a man to this point? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're just discovering us, hit subscribe so you don't miss more stories like this. Police quickly realized they were facing something extraordinary. Standard weapons were useless. Officers fired at the bulldozer, but bullets bounced off the foot-thick armor. Explosives had no effect. One officer even climbed on top of the killdozer, desperately searching for a way in, but Marvin had sealed every hatch. He had built his fortress to be impenetrable. The bulldozer rolled over propane tanks, sparking fears of an explosion, yet somehow Marvin maneuvered around them without igniting a fire. It was as though he had planned every detail. For nearly 2 hours, the killdozer stormed through Granby, but eventually Marvin's war machine met its limit. As he tried to destroy a hardware store, the bulldozer's tread slipped into the basement foundation, trapping the 61-ton machine. Marvin tried desperately to free it, but the steel beast wouldn't move. Surrounded by law enforcement and with no escape, Marvin made his final decision. Inside the cab, he pulled out a handgun and ended his life. When police finally cut their way into the bulldozer, they were stunned at what they found. Cameras, ventilation systems, layers of steel and concrete. It was less a vehicle and more a tank. And taped inside were Marvin's chilling recordings. In his own words, he described the rampage as something guided by God, declaring that he was at peace with his actions. Granby lay in ruins, but the question echoed louder than the destruction. Was Marvin Heemeyer a villain consumed by rage, or a desperate man who believed he was standing against corruption? If you're gripped by this story, subscribe and smash that like button. It helps us bring even more of these jaw-dropping true stories straight to you. In the years since, the Killdozer has become a legend. Some paint Marvin as a madman who let anger destroy him. Others see him as a folk hero, a man who struck back at a system he thought was rigged against him. Documentaries, songs, and endless internet debates keep his story alive. In fact, to this day, people still ask, if Marvin's warnings had been heard, would Granby have been spared? And that is the true story of the Killdozer rampage. One man, one machine, and one small town forever scarred. Before you go, make sure you subscribe, because we've got even more unbelievable real-life stories on the way. And tell us in the comments, was Marvin Heemeyer a hero or a villain?
I hope that the people of Granby learn that the way you punished me over the years that I was down there, and how you punished me, for the most part turned me into a desperate man. And desperate men do desperate things to recover a lot of times.